I am super excited to be having our first live section with you, and I hope that you are excited too. So, my name is Favour Excellence, and this is the time where you get to get your friends onto this stream. Please, only those that are in the Wisdom Finance Accountability Group can join this stream. So, if you have your friends anywhere and they are not live here, please call them, chat them up, and pull them here because we're going to have an amazing time this evening. And of course, if you know me, I love to keep my stream very, concise and short so that we can get the best out of it, and we can, hit the nail on the head and go straight to the point. So if you are online, please let me know you're online and let me know where you're watching us from. Let me know where you're joining us from. And of course, you know my name, right? My name is Favour Excellence. So just in case you don't know, I'm reminding you that's my name. And in case you're wondering how come I have these two names, don't worry, it's a gist for another day. Because I often get that and people ask me every now and then, why are you bearing two names, two powerful names? Because I'm powerful, yeah? Okay. Yeah, hi Benny. Thanks for joining us. How are you doing today? Watching from Lagos. Beautiful. Interesting. Good to have you on this stream. Please let's tag our friends. Let's get them online. Let's get them online and let's have an amazing time this evening. Yes. I'm going to give another, let's say 1 minute, and let's see if we are able to get others online before we go right straight into it. And please, just in case you have any question that you haven't asked yet and you still want to ask, please, now you are going to use the chats because I can't navigate, it's not going to be easy for me to navigate into the accountability group to see any question that anyone is going to paste there right now. So please, if you have any question for me now, post it as a question in the comment section, and please, I'm going to respond to you. I'm going to respond to you in the chat. You post it in the chat and I'll respond to you. So pleasant evening. How are you doing? I love to really hear from you. How has the accountability group been for you? Do you think that you're getting value? How has it been for you? How has it been for you? It's day 7 already, and that's 1/3 of this 21-day journey. So how has it been for you? I really love to hear from you. What have been your major light bulb moments? Are you already experiencing transformation in your finances? Are you already experiencing a mindset shift? Are you already experiencing some evolution? Are you already making some critical decisions that will help your financial journey? So talk back to me and let me know how this journey has been for you in the last 7 days, okay? Okay, so I want to start with the first question, and I was trying to really look for it in the chat, and it was difficult for me to identify it, but I know on day 2 when we talked about what kind of a spender are you, somebody asked a question around, can I have an attitude that combines all 3 kinds of spenders together? I think somebody asked a question like that, and I responded that I was going to answer that question in the live section. So I'm just going to go straight to answer the question. I would have loved to pull it out. I tried searching for it even before this meeting. I couldn't find it. I would have loved to really pull out the question exactly the way it was. Benny, could you please help me out? If you find that question, just post it in the chat and let me read it. Okay. All right. So let's go. So when we talked about the 3 kind of spenders, we talked about the 3 kind of spenders: the radical spenders, the emotional spender, the rational spender. Interestingly, right, I used to be an emotional spender. Emotional spender mixed with some level of rationality, but my level of emotional spending was far higher than my rational sense in terms of how I spend. So when it comes to spending, I am more rational when it has to do with me, when it has to do with spending money on myself and for myself. But I am more emotional when it has to do with other people. So if somebody comes to me and say, "Oh, I'm having this challenge," in fact, the interesting thing, people don't necessarily come to me to say, "Oh, I'm having this challenge, oh, I need this, please help me." All they do is complain around me. Just make sure that I'm around and I'm listening, or I'm hearing you. And they just complain, "Oh, this challenge, oh, and I don't even have transfer fare to go home. Oh, how do I do this? What kind of a problem is this?" They just complain. And then I just hear and I'm like, "Oh, really? You don't have transport to go home? How much do you need for your transport?" And then the person says, "Oh, I need this." And I'm like, "Take." So in essence, the person have not necessarily even asked for it. The person just complained and just expressed dissatisfaction or discomfort or expressed that need, and I am jumping to meet that need. Do you see? So I was that kind of emotional spender, but I had to heal, because over time I realized that not everybody who is complaining to you or sharing their issues with you really want you to solve their problems. Sometimes some people just want you to give them a shoulders to lean on. Some people just want you to listen to them. Some people just want you to just hear them out, really. And then they are good to go, right? Some people just want you to pat them at the back and reassure them that all shall be well. That's all they need. They don't necessarily need you to solve that problem for them. But if you are an emotional spender, you'll be quick to say, "Oh, so you know what? How much do you need, or what do you need?" And then you'll be quick to want to solve the problem. I'm so sorry. For some reasons, my lights off this evening and it's struggling to come on. So they really do not want you to solve the problems for them. But what happens many of the times is that we try to really solve every problem. And unfortunately, we cannot solve every problem. Unfortunately, we cannot solve every problem. But we try to solve every problem, because problem does not finish on the earth. Now, coming to assessing what kind of a spender are you, yes, it's possible for you to be a mix, right? Like I told you, I was a very strong emotional spender with a little bit of rationality around my spending habits. But over time, I had to heal. I had to develop myself, because I started getting feedback. And one of the feedback that really hurt me the most was when somebody and said, "Did I ask you for help?" Because I am quick to like, "Oh, you need this, oh, you're having this challenge, okay, let me help you." And then the person was like, "Did I ask you for help?" "Oh, I never asked you for help. I only complained and then you jumped in to help me." And I felt so bad, like, really? So this is how this person actually feel, that the person never asked me for help. The person just expressed concerns, expressed need, and then I jumped in there to really help. Do you see? So that's part of the challenge when it comes to emotional spenders. Emotional spenders are taken advantage of. Emotional spenders often get hurt. Emotional spenders often get disappointed. Emotional spenders really are not well appreciated most of the times. And why is it so? Because sometimes a lot of people feel entitled to their help. A lot of people feel entitled to their need, because these are emotional spenders. Do you see? So as an individual, yes, it's good to be an emotional spender. Why? Because we are emotional beings. But what is not healthy is for you to be an emotional spender alone. So just like we have the temperaments, where those people who are choleric, who are melancholic, who are sanguine, and then they have mixtures of temperament. That's the same way we can have mixtures of the type of spenders. So you could be 20% emotional spender and then 80% radical spender. Or you could be 50% emotional spender and you could be 50% rational spender. You could even have mixtures of the three. You could be 20, 30, 50. So you are 20% emotional spender, you are 30% rational spender, and then you are 50% radical spender. Right. So most of us, it's very rare for you to see somebody that is just one alone. Most people have a mixture of the three types of spenders, and or some have two types of spenders that are prevalent in them or prevalent with them. Right. What you now need to do is to understand yourself, is to realize who you are, realize the kind of spender you are, and ask yourself, will this help me to achieve my financial goals? The honest truth is that if you are a radical spender or if you are a very rational spender, you need a bit of emotions, because we're emotional beings and we are dealing with emotional beings in the world. And in the world, you need some level of emotions to be able to really understand what people are going through, be able to solve their problems, and even be able to make money. If you want to be, a radical spender, a high risk taker, someone who just jump at decisions alone, the honest truth is that you will make a lot of mistakes, because there are two sides to everything. There is the emotional bit, there's the rational bit, right? Then your radicality now comes in your decision making attitude or your decision making power. Do you see? So you need a mix of everything, but you need to understand who you are. When you understand who you are, then it helps you to be able to set the right accountability structures. Now, how I said I was like 80% emotional spender and 20% rational spender. How did I navigate from that? First of all, I had to heal, right? Because I was at a point where I was so hurt, because I had helped a lot of people and they took advantage of me. Now, a lot of people also borrowed a lot of money from me and they never paid back, even till date. They rode on my emotions, on the fact that I was an emotional spender, to be able to ride on my intelligence and get money from me and get favors from me, to get things from me. And they never really appreciated it. So I was hurt. And for me to navigate from that place, first of all, I had to acknowledge that, Favour, you are an emotional spender. And for you to, secure your financial future, you cannot be largely an emotional spender. You are only rational when it comes to yourself. So you are not buying trending clothes for yourself, but somebody will come and borrow money from you to buy a trending clothes and you will give the person. You are not using an iPhone, but somebody will come and cry over an iPhone in your ears and you will help the person get an iPhone. So why are you so rational to yourself and so emotional towards others? I had to answer the why question. I had to understand the foundation. Now, when I began to dig deeper, I realized that it had to do with my upbringing. It had to do with the environment that I was brought up in. It had to do with my temperament. It had to do with my belief systems and my mindset. So I had to outline the issues I was having, and then I started walking back from where I was to where I wanted to be. Do you understand? So if, for example, you are an emotional spender, you definitely need somebody to help you to dig deeper, to understand why you are who you are, why you are coming from the kind of environment, why you think the way you think, what are the mindsets that has enabled that kind of a spending habit to thrive, what are the circumstances you've had in life, what are the events that has happened to you. Have there been traumatic experiences? There are some people that have gone through some kind of traumatic experiences that, when it comes to anything related to that issue, they are so emotional and it's easy for you to, really get them off their guards. Do you see? So you need to really work with somebody who will help you to understand and dig deep to understand what are those issues that you are going through, what are the circumstances that you've had, what are the traumatic experiences you've had, what are the upbringing, what are the examples that you've seen around you that you have unconsciously modeled after. Because the honest truth is that I grew up in a home, and one of the issues when I started doing, the reflective sections, one of the issues I realized was that I grew up in a home where my mom will always say that you have to give to people. You cannot eat everything you have to give. So I watched my mom sometimes even give out the last meal we had at home, and we had nothing to eat. And she would tell us, let's keep praying and trusting God to provide. Do you understand? She will tell you the last thing you have given, it is a seed. In fact, during my upbringing, during my early days, there was a day we went to church. We had just one car as a family, right? Because I grew up in an average family. We had just one car, and we went to church that day. And my father heard the word of God, and he went and he dropped the car keys and dropped the papers of the car, and we trekked home. My dad has given his car like that, and we trekked home that day. That was how serious it was, So I grew up in this kind of environment where, neighbors will come, will tell my mom, we need this, and we give. My daddy this, he will give. And my dad was also that kind of a person. In fact, we may not have food in the house. Somebody from outside will come and ask my dad for something. It will be the very last thing. My dad will give it out at the expense of his own children. So that was how emotional my father was. And unconsciously, I began to imbibe that kind of character. And I started growing up and becoming an emotional spender too. Because that was the examples that I saw around me growing up. So sometimes if you look around you, your spending habits may be part of what you have picked from your upbringing. If you grew up in a family where, your family, you always see your relatives, they are going out every weekend, spending, enjoying, they must hang out every weekend, they must drink, they must that. Somebody come, boom, they want to use the latest iPhone, they want to use the latest shoe, they want to use the latest this, the latest that. Unconsciously, it will come into you that when you even grow up as an adult, you want to also continue in that line. So unconsciously, they have been able to, build in you some form of habits that you never knew that, you had imbibed. You have been cultured in a particular pattern. That subconscious conditioning has happened without even your knowledge. Do you see? So for you to be able to heal and for you to be able to transit from that position to where you want to be, you need to reflect and understand the circumstances, the things that have allowed that thing to thrive, and you need to acknowledge it, because it starts from acknowledging it. In fact, I had to tell myself, Favour, I agree, you're an emotional spender. I agree that, people ride on your emotions. I agree that people take advantage of you a lot. Now, you have been able to acknowledge that this is where you are. How do you want to move from where you are to where you want to be? So another thing that also helped me was I had to develop a checklist. Before I spend on something, I have a checklist and I take it through that particular checklist to understand whether I really need to spend the money. And I have given you an idea of that checklist on one of the days. So somewhere next week, I think it's on day 10 or so, I've given an idea on how to, test certain expenses before you incur them, right? To know whether it's a priority or it is not a priority. So I had to start. So when somebody comes and asks me for something, one of the key decisions I made was that I will never make a decision at the spur of the moment. So if somebody comes and say, oh, please, I'm dying, I need this, I'll tell the person, give me some time, I'll get back to you. Now that I will get back to you, give me some time to think about it, to reflect on that request, to rationalize that request, to see whether that request was worth it or not. And sometimes when I rationalize it, I realize that this is not real. This person just wanted to play on my emotions. So sometimes I do my background investigation. I ask questions around. Maybe the person comes and say, oh, I lost my job. I do not have a job. My rent is so amount of money. I could just do my background check to ask questions. Okay, did this person, praise God, did this person really lost his job? Did this person, really in this kind of situation? I just do a few background check. When I do a background check, then I understand whether the person was being truthful or not. And it helps me to now make a more rational decision. Do you see? So, in terms of really healing, sometimes, especially when you have become an adult, you need somebody to really walk you through in form of a coach. I've had people that once they receive their money like this, I have to collect it from them, because as long as the money remains with them, they will spend it. So while they are going through their healing process, they needed someone to help them to, put them in check. Some, we had to develop structures for them to help them to be able to navigate that. Do you see? So in summary, you can be a mix of all the type of spenders, but you need to have a healthy mix. Do you see? If you are just an emotional spender, you are is trouble, right? If you are just a radical spender, it is not good. If you are just a rational spender, it is not good, because sometimes, apart from rational spenders being tagged as stingy, sometimes they are tagged as heartless. That is when you see some people that somebody is dying or something bad is happening to somebody, is a life and death situation, but they are not willing to help because they are rationalizing everything. Do you understand? So that balance is really, really needed. If you want to ask me what would be a balance, or what would be a healthy balance, I would say that it is dependent on what you do. It is dependent on your career, the career path you have chosen. It will depend on, the kind of profession or career that you are in. It will depend on what you do as an individual. So let me give you an example. For example, if you are a business person, you cannot be an emotional spender at 30%. You need to be an emotional spender at maximum 20%, and then be more of a rational and a radical spender. A radical spender because you need to be a high risk taker if you are going to be a successful business person. So at least you need to be a 35% a radical spender, and then you are now at a 40, is it 40 or 35% again? Okay, you are now at a 45% rational spender. Because as a business person, you need facts and figures to be able to inform your decisions. Many of the reasons why African businesses fail a lot is because many of the African business people or African entrepreneurs are not rational spenders. They don't think, they do not have facts and figures, they do not have data, they do not have information, they do not keep records to be able to guide their decisions. So they just make business decisions based on how they feel, based on their emotions, or based on how they feel like, oh, yes, I'm a high risk taker, I will take the high risk. No, there is a difference between taking calculated risk and taking informed risk. Those are the two major types of risk. Calculated risk is where you have your data, you have your facts and figures, you have your historical facts, you have your trend analysis to be able to analyze, to understand, what would likely be the outcome of this particular decision. And then informed decision is when you just know that this is what is going to happen if I do this, right? But you need to be able to calculate, be very calculative, and be very rational when it comes to business, right? If you are in a profession or you are a CEO, it's quite different, because as a CEO, you are managing people. You need your emotions to be quite, your emotional intelligence to be quite high. Not that you become a rational spender like that, but you need a higher level of emotional intelligence, because you are dealing with people. And it is when you have the right kind of people and you are able to manage the people, that is when you're able to get the best results. So you need high level of emotional intelligence. But at the same time, you still need high level of rationality. You need high level of, you also need some level of radical decisions to be able to help your business or help your organizations to go far. So in general, everybody needs a mix, but you need a higher level of rationality. If you are going to go far in business, in your life, in your personal finances, you need a higher level of rationality. So at any point in time, ensure that your rationality in terms of spending is not lesser than your radicality and is not lesser than your emotionality, because your rationality is what will bring a balance to that radical energy, to that spirit of wanting to just move quickly and take high risk and all that. Or it is also what will bring a balance to the emotions and the old stories without facts. If you see what is happening a lot in Nigeria today, the honest truth is that a lot of people take more emotional decisions than factual decisions. Go online now and just go and tell one story. This thing happened and that happened. You will see a lot of people will start sympathizing with you. Hey, yeah, okay, this and that and that. So a lot of people, when they want to draw attention, they look for unnecessary stories, because a lot of people are more emotional than rational. Only very few people would analyze it to say, this your story is not hard enough. But ABC, you said this happened. How did this happen? How did that happen? And then when those people try to rationalize things, then a lot of people try to attack them. And that's the reason why there are so many fake stories that are thriving in Nigeria, because a lot of people, thrive on emotions, not on rationality. But in your finances, in your business, in your career, the honest truth is that emotions cannot take you so far. So at every point in time, let your level of emotionality be lower and let your level of rationality be highest. Okay? Your radicality can be in between, because you definitely also need to be able to be decisive and you need to be able to take high risk. I hope I've been able to help you. Any other question? Thank you, Benny. So is it possible that I'm a hybrid? And what kind of help would I need? Okay, so I've already answered this question, so I won't go over it again. So what kind of help you need is specific. To be very direct now, you need somebody to work with you closely, hand in hand. Yes. So first of all, you need to understand what hybrid are you and at what percentage. And I am working on an assessment that would help people to be able to determine whether they are emotional spenders, they are rational spenders, or they are radical spenders. Hopefully, I will be able to finalize it during these holidays. And trust me, for everyone in the accountability group, you would have access to it free of charge. So don't worry, you are not going to pay any more monies for that. I'm going to get it across to you so that you can assess yourself to know where you are. And then you can get a coach to work with you. You can get a coach to help you to understand and investigate why and how you found yourself at that level you found yourself. Where do you want to get to, or where do you want to navigate to, and how do you navigate there? I hope that helps you. Okay, so any other question? Benny, was there any other question in the chat? I'm trying to see in the chat. Somebody says, okay, 65% rational spender, 35% emotional spender. This is okay, but where's your radicality? That's the question, because you also need to be able to be decisive. So you need your radicality to also come in somewhere. Okay? I think I've taken all the questions. All right. So in the next 30 minutes, I just want to speak to us a bit around structuring our finances. Structuring your finances. First of all, I want to start by saying that budget is not a bondage. Budget is rather helping you to set healthy boundaries in your financial life that would help you to achieve your financial goals. So budget is never a bondage. In fact, yesterday or the day before, I did an assessment on my Facebook page to ask people, from making money and managing money, which is more difficult or which is more easier. And a lot of people, 99% of the people that responded said that managing money is more difficult. So yes, there are so many people out there talking about how to make money, do this, do that to make money. But yeah, we are talking about how to manage the money, because the honest truth is that if you do not manage the money well, you can't make more monies. And if you do not manage the money well, you can't multiply the money. And if you do not manage the money well, you can't keep the money. Do you see? So it will be a fruitless effort for you to work so hard to make a lot of money, and at the end of the day, you do not see the head and the tail of the money. You do not see, what you have been able to achieve out of that money. So you want to be able to find yourself in a situation whereby even though you are making 20,000, you are able to maximize it. Now, there are people that they are making 500,000 in a month and they have nothing to show for it. And there will be another person who is making 50,000 naira in a month. And the person who is earning 50,000 naira in a month is able to, or is, in quotes, richer than the person who is earning 500,000 in a month. Why? Because of the boundaries that they have set. So budget help you to set healthy boundaries. It does not put you in bondage. There are three things that you could do to money. You could waste it, you could spend it, and you could invest it. Right? You could waste it, you could spend it, and you could invest it. So that brings me to what I want to talk to you about, which is structuring your finances for a healthy, or for a healthy financial future. Now, when I want to talk about, or when we talk about structuring your finances, how do you structure your finances? Yes, we have been able to establish, that you need to be able to view budgeting as a tool. And please, key points that resonate with you, kindly drop them in the chat so that I can see. If you are online also, let me know you are online. Put your name in the chat. I want to know who is online. And key points that resonate with you, kindly also drop it in the chat, okay? Okay, so in your finances, it is important that you are able to structure your finances very well to avoid wastage and to enable intelligent spending and wise investment. If you are unable to structure your finances properly, then wastage is inevitable. There's a common saying that where you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So whether you plan, you do not plan, you have planned, right? It is either you have a plan of success or you have a plan of failure. Where there is no budget, that's automatically a plan of failure. Where there is a budget, there is a plan of success. Now, we talked about viewing budget as a tool that will work for you for you to be able to generate more money, work for you to be able to invest, work for you to be able to multiply money, work for you to be able to expand and achieve your goals, achieve your objectives in life, achieve your mandate and your purpose in life. Do you see? Now, how do you then want to structure your finances? I am taking this wisdom from God himself, because God himself, he had requested for like 10% of our income. I always counsel people that you should structure your finances in percentages. Because even God himself did not just say, give me this. He said, no, he put it in form of percentages. The essence of percentages is that when you structure your life in percentages, it helps you to have a fair structure across board. And it helps you to be able to understand how much of your life is going into the different areas of your expenses. So let's take, for example, right? You are saving 10% of every income that you make. Over a period of time, you would realize that, you have been able to, 10% of your life, you have invested it into your future by saving it, by keeping it aside, so that you can use it for other important things, right? what it does for you is that you realize that 10% of every income is saved. So if today you make 20,000 naira, you know that you are saving 2,000. If tomorrow you then make 50,000, you know that you are saving 5,000. But if, for example, you say, okay, I'm going to be saving 5,000 naira every month. When you are earning 20,000, you are saving 5,000. When you are earning 50,000, you are saving 5,000. When you are earning 200,000, you are saving 5,000. You see that there is no fair structure across your expenses and across your savings life. So when you structure your life in percentages, what it does for you is that it creates fairness across your expenses. So for example, I can ask you, how much do you spend on food in a month? If you are earning 200,000 in a month and you tell me on an average you spend like 20,000 on food in a month, that is you spending 10% of your income in your stomach. Or you spend 50,000, or let's say you spend 50,000 on food in a month. That is like 1/4 of your income that you are spending on food, which is 25% of your income. So it's like you are earning 200,000, 25% of your income is going to food. So the question I would then ask you is, how many percent will go into your rent, your housing? How many percent will go into your utilities? How many percent will go into family and friends and givings? How many percent is going into your personal development and your upkeep? So at the end of the day, you realize that you are spending a huge chunk of your income on food and food alone. Do you see? So 1/4 of everything you make is going back into your stomach. Then how many percent is going into savings? How many percent is going into your future? How many percent is going into, structural investment or capital investment? How many percent is going into the support that you are giving to friends and family? So it is important for you to understand the financial structure that works for you. There are different financial structures. So I've talked about one, which is the structuring your life according to percentages. Now, another could be structuring your life according to values, right? So somebody can just say, okay, I earn 20,000, but I'm going to spend 1,000 on A, 2,000 on B, 3,000 on C, 4,000 on D, and then you are able to calculate it like that. But now, here is the thing. If you are just putting a figure, as you grow, you just also put a figure. And sometimes there may not be historical data to back up the reason for you applying that figure. But when it is according to percentages, if I say I am spending 10% of my income on feeding every month, right? What it does for me is that when I am earning 50,000 naira, my feeding is 5,000. When I begin to earn 100,000, my feeding goes to 10,000. So I am able to live life at my level. Do you understand? Because I've seen people complain to say, oh, I'm working so hard and now I am making more money, but they are not seeing the money on me. I'm not seeing how I'm enjoying my life. I'm not able to enjoy my life. I'm not able to reflect, the level of life. My colleagues are laughing at me and the likes. The problem is that your life is not according to percentages. If you structure every area of your life according to percentages, what it does for you is that as your income increases, your level of life or the fund or the budget availability for different components of your life also increases. Do you see? So for example, I'll give you a secret. So when it comes to rental, many people are staying in houses that they cannot afford. That's the honest truth. So you just sit down and say, oh, how much do they rent house in this area, in Ikeja? Okay, houses are around 200,000 to 500,000. And then you go rent a house of 500,000 without really analyzing whether you can, afford a house of 500,000. There are different ways to determine what kind of house you can afford at a time. Number one, for some people, they look at if they are working in a place or they are earning in a structure that they give them housing allowance. So there are people that they work in organizations that they tell them, okay, your monthly income is 400,000, your housing allowance is 100,000. So what they do is that they calculate their housing allowance. Their housing allowance is 1 million in a year, so they or 1.2 million in a year. So they want to get a house that they would be able to pay not more than 1.2 million in a year. Now the thing is that, or the downside is that you are not calculating your utilities, you are not calculating maintenance, you are not calculating other expenses related to your housing. And the downside is that you would not also be able to keep money aside for you to be able to also do a long-term or a more permanent residency, plan. Do you understand? Because you're already spending everything that is coming in house. Now, another structure, which was what I did when I just started working more than about 10 years ago. What I told myself was that I'm not going to rent a house that my 1 month salary cannot cover. So meaning that I'm renting a house that is 1/12 of my annual salary. So as at the time when I started working then, I think I started with around, my first salary after NYC when I started working was around 150,000. That was like almost 10 years ago or so. It was around 150,000, yeah? So what I did was I looked for a house that was around 80,000 or so, just a self-contained. So that when I receive my 1 month salary, push come to shove, if I need to pay my rent this month, immediately I receive my 1 month salary, I remove my tithe and my transportation and some of the little expenses I need. I am able to conveniently still pay my rent in that month without having to save for multiple months to be able to pay my rent. But then I now moved to the level where I now told myself, okay, I'm not going to get a house that is more than my housing allowance. I moved to that level. But as I grew wiser, I realized that this is not, all that I need to do. So I further broke it down to do an analysis to say, okay, what kind of house can I stay in? I pick my monthly salary, because if I want to use my annual housing, maybe that may not be very realistic. I pick my monthly salary because the honest truth is that houses or the cost of housing is increasing exponentially. And if you are a salary earner and you do not have other source of income, your income may not be increasing exponentially, but expenses are increasing exponentially. Inflation currently now in country officially is almost 40%, right? But how many people have received salary increase of up to 40% for those who are working? Even so many people have not even received 0.01% salary increase. Do you see? So, and with the inflation, landlords have increased rents. Expenses are increasing by the day. So you now need to do an analysis to see, how do I want to meet up with these expenses? So picking your monthly salary, then you ask yourself, how much is my annual rent? Let's say your monthly salary is 500,000 naira, right? And then you are living in a house of, let's say, 1.2 million naira. So what it means is that your monthly rent is 100,000 naira. That is 1/5 of your monthly salary. So the question you now need to ask yourself is that, can I comfortably and conveniently remove 100,000 naira every month for my rent, and the remaining 400,000 naira I would be able to meet all my other needs, and I will still be able to, save and invest conveniently? That's the question. If you are staying in a house that is more than 1/3, that is more than 1/4, if you are staying in a house that is more than 1/4 of your annual salary, you are living above your level. Do you understand? You are living above your level. If you are living in a house that is more than 1/4 of of your salary. You are living in a house that is more than your level. So you need to sit back and ask yourself questions. What do I need to do to, go back or to live in a house that is more convenient, that I can pay my rent more conveniently? In fact, if you can do the first one, which was what I did when I was starting up, of a rent that I am able to pay conveniently from a 1 month salary, that makes a lot of sense, because that is like 1/12 of your annual salary you are using to pay your rent. But don't let it be more than 1/4 of your annual salary. Okay, I hope that helps you. And in case you want to further sit down to do calculations, please do. When we get into the practical budgeting, I'm going to be sharing with you the budgeting tool and the resources that you would need for your project, so that you can sit down and already start doing those calculations. It would help you to understand how many percentage of your salary is going into rent, how many percentage of your salary is going into utilities and other expenses, so that we are able to identify whether you are spending well or you are not spending well, whether your spending habit is going to secure your financial future or is going to damage your financial future. So when we talk about structuring your finances, I always counsel people, please and please, some people go spend the money as it comes, right? Even though they have the monthly budget, they just put all the expenses on the budget and all that. But it is safer for you to structure your finances according to percentages. When you have structured your finances according to percentages, what it does for you is that it helps you to be more intentional. You can say 20% of every of my income goes into savings, and then the remaining 80%, you structure it, you remove your rent, you remove your utilities, you remove your transportation, you remove your communications, you remove your personal development, and you remove every other thing that you need to remove. If you put all these things together and it looks as if your money is not enough, then it means that two things. It is either you need to cut down on your expenses or you need to increase your income. Because many of the times, some of the complaints I get is that, I am earning just 20,000 naira, and of this 20,000 naira, it is not even enough for me to even spend, or for me to even transport, or for me to even, live and survive. Talk less of savings. That's the complaint that so many people give. But I usually tell people that you do not have because you do not save. So it is not a thing of saying, oh, I don't have to save. No, you do not have because you do not save. If you save, you would always have some money on reserve. So it means that you need to sit with somebody who would look at your life, and look at your financial structure and help you to identify areas where you can increase your income and also be able to reduce your expenditures. For some of us, we just need to significantly reduce our expenditures. For some of us, we need to reduce our expenditures, and at the same time, we need to increase our income. For some of us, we need to just be able to master how to manage what we have made, so that we are able to secure our financial future. Do you see? So my encouragement to you today is sit back and ask yourself, what would be a reasonable percentage that I can use to structure my finances? How many percent of my income do I want to save? How many percentage of my income do I want to spend on food? How many percentage of my income is my rent currently, if you are paying rent for yourself at the moment? How many percentage of, if you are not paying rent, congratulations to you. So maybe you'll be focusing on your utilities, right? If you're paying utilities, there are some people that they are blessed. They do not disturb themselves with any of those. Maybe because you are with your parents, or you are living with somebody who is taking care of those bills. So that's good for you. Congratulations to you. But you need to sit back to really analyze how many percent, do I want to use for all the different areas of my life. And in all, it shouldn't be more than 100% of your budget. So let's do that as an assignment, and then we'll kick up the conversation. From next week, we are practically going into budgeting itself, and I'm going to be sharing with you the tools that you are going to be working with so that we practically start working on our project. I would have opportunity to review. That's part of the reason why we kept the accountability group as small or as manageable or as sizable as possible, because I want to be able to have opportunity or have the time to be able to review everyone's project. When you come up with your project, you come up with your budget. I may not have time to have a one-on-one section with everybody, except you want to engage me on a one-on-one, which would be a separate conversation entirely. But what I can guarantee you is that when you do your project and you submit it, I would review it and I would give you feedback. Okay, so the tools will be shared, but before then, please take time to reflect. How many percent of my income do I want to spend on different areas of my life? First of all, if you are paying rent for yourself, calculate how many percentage of my income goes to my rent. If you are transporting yourself to work every day, how many percentage of my income goes for transportation? If you are paying utilities, electricity and all that, how many percentage of my income do I currently spend on utilities? If you are, and other things that you do, those regular expenses, you need to calculate and ask yourself, how many percentage of your income do you currently spend on those things? By the time I give you the tool, you just need to plug in the figures, and then it will help you to calculate those percentage, and then you can begin to make an informed decision from there. So that brings us to the end of this live section. There were no much questions to answer, except anyone has questions. If you have questions, can you put it in the chat? If you have questions, can you please put it in the chat? I'm not sure I can see anything in the chat. No question. Okay. I can't see any question in the chat. So if there are no questions, I think this is a good place for us to call it a night. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And I am going to see you in the 8th. Okay? I'm going to see you in the 8th. I'm going to see you tomorrow. And please, as you go, if any questions come up, please do feel free to drop them in the chat. Even if you cannot or you don't feel comfortable putting it in the chat, please slide into my DM and drop your questions. I'm going to respond to it. Slide into my DM, drop your questions. I will respond to it. I may not respond to it immediately, okay? I may not respond to it immediately, but trust me, within this period or before the end of the accountability group, I'm going to respond to it. And then I want to encourage you. I also put out a daily post on my Facebook page and on my Instagram as well. Please go through them, because they are also part of this program. Go through those posts, because the things I put there will not be part of what I'm talking about in the accountability group. And the things I talk about in the accountability group are not going to be part of what is on my Facebook or out there in the public. So for you to get the total package, you need both of them. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting for? Please subscribe to this channel, okay? And I will see you in the 8th. Bye for now.